Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that's, well, it's incredibly complex for so many people. Fertility.
Yeah, it's often so frustrating, sometimes heartbreaking, and we want to look at it through a different lens today.
Exactly. We're going to try and maybe flip the script on the standard way we think about fertility issues.
We're diving into this idea, this core concept from the bioenergetic framework we explore a lot. The pretty radical claim that infertility, things like PCOS, amenorrhea, they aren't really reproductive problems at their root.
They're symptoms.
Symptoms of cellular energy just collapsing. It's about energy production.
That's huge because if you've been dealing with this maybe for years, spending so much emotional energy, money, and then you hear unexplained infertility.
Oh, yeah. That phrase, it feels so final, like something's just fundamentally broken.
But the argument here from the work we're looking at is that it might have, well, surprisingly little to do with your ovaries specifically.
And almost everything to do with the energy status of like every single cell in your body.
How does that work? Biology 101.
Kind of, yeah. It's about the body's priorities. Survival always comes first. Always. Keeping the core systems running, warm, fueled with ATP. That's job one.
And reproduction.
Reproduction is, biologically speaking, a luxury item. It takes massive amounts of energy. So if the body senses any kind of threat, scarcity, cold, stress, danger.
Internally or externally?
Both. If it senses that, it immediately pulls the plug on reproduction. It has to. It's a protective mechanism, millions of years old. Survival beats procreation every single time.
And you're saying there's evidence this isn't just theory, like real-world results.
Absolutely. We're talking about, the clinical experience showing hundreds of women told they were infertile, often after failed IVF, failed IUIs.
The high-tech stuff.
Right. And they conceived naturally, simply by fixing the underlying metabolic issues. It wasn't about fancy procedures. It was about essentially turning their internal thermostat back up.
So that's our mission today, to unpack how things like body temperature, the fuel you eat, stress hormones, how they dictate whether your body gives the green light for pregnancy.
Exactly. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's ground this in a real story. The case of Sarah, 39 years old.
Yeah, Sarah's case is, well, it's pretty classic, unfortunately. 6 years trying, labeled with unexplained infertility.
And she'd been through the ringer, IUIs, IVFs.
Multiple rounds, spent, I think, over $50,000. And eventually, specialists gave her that diagnosis, signs of ovarian failure.
Based on what? FSH? AMH?
Yep, elevated FSH, low AMH. The usual markers they use to basically say your eggs are running out, time's not on your side.
Okay, so that's the conventional picture, focusing entirely on the ovaries.
But this is where the bioenergetic view comes in. While everyone was staring at her ovaries, her entire body was sending out distress signals. Huge signals, but they were being ignored.
Like what kind of signals?
Her vital signs, body temperature, for instance. At 2 p.m., when it should be near its peak for the day, hers was only 96.8 degrees Fahrenheit.
Whoa. That's really low. Clinically hypothermic, almost.
It is. And her resting pulse, 54 beats per minute. Alarmingly slow.
And what about her lifestyle? Because often these things connect, right?
Oh, completely. And she was doing everything she thought was healthy, trying so hard,
Like,
severely restricting calories, maybe 1,200 a day, intense CrossFit 5 times a week, plus regular 16-hour intermittent fasting.
so she looked fit on the outside.
Probably looked fantastic,
Yeah.
but internally, she was running on empty, cold, tired, chronically stressed. Her body wasn't failing reproductively. It was desperately surviving what it perceived as famine and constant threat.
Okay, so the intervention wasn't more hormone or another procedure?
Not at all. It was stunningly simple, especially compared to everything she'd already done. The goal was just restore cellular energy.
Wow.
Get her eating enough, for starters, nutrient-dense food, way more calories, and drastically cutting back that high-intensity exercise, replacing it with more restorative movement.
And what happened?
Within about 6 to 8 months, a total transformation. Her morning temperature climbed up, stabilized around 98.4. Her pulse came up to a healthy 78.
And her cycles?
Periods became regular, robust, normal. And then, month 8, conceived naturally.
Wow, just by getting warm and fed, essentially.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It wasn't about fixing her ovaries. It was about making her cells feel safe and energized again.
Okay, let's dig into that temperature link more deeply. Progesterone. Why is being cold so bad for making progesterone?
All right, progesterone is absolutely key. It's the hormone of pregnancy, needed for conception, implantation, keeping the pregnancy going, and it's made from cholesterol.
Okay.
But that conversion process from cholesterol to progesterone, relies on a whole series of enzymatic reactions. And enzymes, well, they're incredibly sensitive to temperature.
We've talked about enzymes needing the right temperature before. How much does it drop off if you're cold? Like Sarah at 96.8.
Okay, so optimal enzyme function is right around 98.6 Fahrenheit. If your core temp dips below 98, those crucial progesterone-making enzymes, they're already working at maybe only 70 or 80% efficiency.
That's a big hit.
Huge. And if you're consistently below 97, that efficiency plummets, maybe 50 to 70%. You literally cannot make enough progesterone, even if you have plenty of cholesterol, because the cellular machinery is just too cold and sluggish.
So when a doctor sees low progesterone and calls it a luteal phase defect?
They're seeing the symptom, the end result, low hormone. But they often don't ask why. And the bioenergetic answer is often doing. The core temperature is too low to power the factory.
It's a production problem caused by low energy.
Exactly. And this matters way beyond just getting pregnant. Progesterone is vital for maintaining the pregnancy, for the baby's development.
You mentioned Dr. Katharina Dalton's work.
Yeah, fascinating stuff from back in the mid-20th century. She found that moms with adequate progesterone during pregnancy had babies with significantly higher average IQs.
Right.
Like 130 versus 95 for babies of deficient moms.
Yeah. Wait, same genetics, just different hormonal environment.
Exactly. It suggests the metabolic environment, the progesterone levels you provide, literally helps shape the baby's developmental potential. It's profound.
It really shows how reproduction is an energetic commitment, not just plumbing.
Totally. And think about the level of progesterone needed. For optimal fertility, for a safe implantation environment, progesterone needs to be about 50 times higher than estrogen during that luteal phase.
50 times. Wow. And what do you typically see in women struggling?
Oh, clinically, it's common to see ratios like 3 to 1, maybe 5 to 1. It's miles off.
And that low ratio isn't just a defect.
It's a massive red flag for systemic metabolic dysfunction. Estrogen dominance driven by low progesterone production. It's an energy crisis manifesting hormonally.
Which loops back to temperature as that primary signal. If your morning temp is consistently below, say, 97.8,
or regularly dipping to 97.5 or lower.
Your body is basically in power-saving mode. It thinks there's danger.
Exactly. It's whispering, maybe shouting, danger, conserve resources. How can it possibly justify the enormous metabolic cost of pregnancy in that state? It can't.
So it actively shuts down ovulation and prevents implantation.
Because pregnancy is seen as a potentially fatal risk under those perceived conditions. It's pure survival logic. IVF tries to force the issue, but if the body is screaming unsafe, it often fails because that underlying threat signal hasn't been addressed.
Okay, let's shift to another really common and confusing diagnosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, usually presented as this lifelong, complicated hormonal condition you just have to manage.
Right, and it seems so complex on the surface. But from this bioenergetic viewpoint, a lot of that complexity is, well, it's noise. The argument is PCOS isn't really a distinct syndrome.
It's a symptom again.
It's a symptom or maybe collection of symptoms pointing to deeper issues. Usually it's a combination of undiagnosed, maybe subclinical hypothyroidism coupled with insulin resistance. And both of those stem from
metabolic suppression.
Exactly. Low cellular energy.
Okay, break down the thyroid connection first. Because conventional PCOS treatment focuses so much on the ovaries, the cysts, the high androgens.
Right, they focus downstream. But upstream, think about thyroid. When your active thyroid hormone, P3, is low, your overall metabolic rate drops. Your temperature drops.
You just established why that's bad for progesterone.
And it affects other things too.
Yeah.
Specifically, in the ovaries and other tissues, there are enzymes needed to convert androgens, like testosterone, into estrogens. And guess what those enzymes need to work properly?
T3.
Bingo. They're highly dependent on adequate T3.
So if T3 is low because the whole system is stressed and suppressed, that conversion process gets stuck.
Precisely. The factory production line stalls at the androgen stage. Testosterone and other androgens build up because they can't be efficiently converted into estrogen.
And the doctor measures the high testosterone, sees cysts on an ultrasound,
which are often just follicles that didn't ovulate because of the low energy state.
And slaps on the PCOS label, then treats the symptoms, the testosterone, maybe acne, irregular cycles with drugs like metformin or the pill,
while completely ignoring the root cause, the cold, sluggish, underactive thyroid state.
Okay, but hang on. What about TSH? A lot of women told they have PCOS might have a TSH of, say, 3.0 or 3.5. Most doctors say that's normal. How does that fit?
That's such a crucial point. The normal TSH range is designed to catch outright thyroid failure. It's a very wide net. But for optimal metabolic function, especially for something as demanding as fertility, you need much better thyroid signaling.
So a TSH of 3.5 isn't optimal, even if it's normal?
Generally, no. Optimal TSH is often closer to 1.0, maybe under 2.0. A TSH of 3.5 suggests the pituitary is already having to push the thyroid harder, but even more importantly, we need to look beyond TSH.
At free T3 and reverse T3.
Yes. You often see low free T3, the usable hormone, and high reverse P3, the metabolic brake, even with a normal TSH. That tells you the problem isn't necessarily the thyroid gland itself, but how the hormone is being converted and used at the cellular level. There's resistance happening peripherally.
And that cellular resistance, that links to the other part of PCOS you mentioned, insulin resistance.
It does. Most conventional approaches see insulin resistance as the cause of PCOS, but we're flipping that.
You're saying insulin resistance is a consequence, an adaptation.
Absolutely an adaptation. Think about that cold, slow cell, only working at 70% capacity. If it takes in the full amount of glucose intended for a 100% efficient cell, what happens?
It's overload, damage.
Metabolic chaos. So the cell wisely becomes resistant to insulin, puts up barriers to protect itself from taking in more fuel than its sluggish mitochondria can handle. It's self-preservation, not failure.
Wow, okay. That reframes insulin resistance completely. It's the cell defending itself.
Which makes sense in cases like Lisa. 28 years old, classic PCOS diagnosis. On metformin for 6 years, struggling with weight, acne, irregular cycles, told natural conception was probably off the table.
And conventionally, they saw the high insulin, the androgens.
All the PCOS markers. But metabolically, her TSH was 3.2, normal, but not optimal. Low free T3, high reverse T3. And crucially, her morning temperature was consistently just 96.9 degrees Fahrenheit, deep metabolic winter.
So again, the approach wasn't to target the PCOS label.
We ignored the label, we treated the cold, tired, suppressed body, and the protocol was, well, probably shocking to her initially.
More food, carbs.
Way more food. We pushed her calories up to 2,500, even 3,000 a day. Plenty of easily digestible carbs, fruit, juice, rice, which she'd been taught to fear, plus stable saturated fats.
And exercise. She's probably doing intense stuff too.
Yeah, HIIT training. We stopped that immediately. That was just adding more stress. Switched her to gentle walking, maybe some light strength training a couple of times a week. Remove the stress, add the fuel.
And what happened with Lisa?
It was remarkable. Within 4 months, her temperature climbed to 98.1 degrees Fahrenheit. Her periods, perfect 28-day cycles. Her skin cleared up. And fascinatingly, she lost 12 pounds without even trying, just by eating more and stressing less.
Her body started working efficiently again.
Exactly. It felt safe, warm, fueled. And guess what? Pregnant naturally in month 4. The PCOS syndrome just evaporated once the underlying energy deficit was fixed. It was metabolic suppression with a fancy label.
This connection is so powerful because it means a lot of things promoted as healthy today could actually be, well, wrecking women's fertility.
Oh, absolutely. We're seeing what looks like an epidemic of reproductive shutdown, and it's often driven by these well-intentioned, but from a bioenergetic standpoint, misguided health trends.
It's like the perfect storm for creating that chronic survival state.
It really is. Let's start with the famine signal. Intermittent fasting, skipping breakfast, long fasts. Your body doesn't know you're doing it for health. It just perceives scarcity.
And the immediate response to perceived famine is stress hormones.
Cortisol spikes. Has to maintain blood sugar for the brain. But sustained high cortisol is like putting a giant brake on your metabolism.
How does cortisol break the system?
It directly suppresses thyroid function, lowers T3 conversion, increases reverse T3. We know what that does now. Lower temperature, lower progesterone, poor ovulation, no implantation signal. The body basically says, resources low, shut down Project Baby.
Okay, so that's the fasting piece. Now add low carb or keto on top of that.
Right, this layers on another level of stress. Remember how we said the liver needs glucose for that T4 to T3 conversion?
Yeah, it needs glycogen stores.
If you're not eating enough carbs, those stores get depleted. So the body has to make glucose from other things.
Gluconeogenesis, making glucose from protein.
Exactly. And that process is metabolically expensive, highly stressful, and guess what drives it?
Cortisol again.
Cortisol again. It's a backup generator, not the main power supply. We see it clinically all the time. Women on long-term keto or carnivore, their thyroid function tanks, temperatures are low, periods get irregular or disappear entirely.
They might call it keto cycling or something.
We call it metabolic shutdown. If your body is struggling just to make enough glucose to fuel your brain, it has absolutely zero energy left for the luxury of making a baby.
Okay, famine signal from fasting, stress from making glucose without carbs. Now add the third element, intense exercise.
Chronic cardio, CrossFit, HIIT. Even if you're burning calories, the intensity registers as stress. It's like running from a predator day after day.
More cortisol, more thyroid suppression.
Compounding the problem, it's just layer upon layer of danger signals to the brain and the endocrine system.
Let's talk about Amanda. Her story sounds like the embodiment of this trifecta.
Oh, completely. 32 years old, serious CrossFit competitor,
Yeah.
strict paleo keto diet, daily intermittent fasting, training like a machine, 2-3 hours a day, body fat around 15%.
Looked incredibly fit, I imagine.
The picture of health, conventionally speaking. But she hadn't had a period in 18 months. Hypothalamic amenorrhea, total shutdown.
What were her metabolic markers like?
Devastating. Temperature was 96.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Resting heart rate, 48 beats per minute, like a hibernating bear.
Wow.
Zero libido, constantly exhausted, just running on fumes, but pushing harder and harder because she thought that was the path to health. Metabolically, she was wrecked.
So her recovery, it must have felt completely backwards to her, starting with eating breakfast.
We had to insist. Food immediately on waking, eggs, fruit, orange juice, buttered sourdough toast, real fuel. And we had to drastically increase her total calories, maybe 1,400 up to 2,800, sometimes 3,000 a day.
She must have resisted that, the fear of gaining weight.
Huge fear. We had to re-educate her that this wasn't about getting fat. It was about survival and healing. Her body was starving for energy.
And the exercise, pulling back, must have been psychologically tough.
Terrifying for her. We cut the intense CrossFit from 6 days a week down to maybe 3 days of moderate strength training, plus lots of walking. Movement, yes, but without the extreme metabolic stress.
And this is where people often hit that healing weight paradox, right? She probably gained some weight initially.
She did. About 15 pounds initially. And this is so important for listeners to understand. That initial gain usually isn't fat. It's the body finally refilling depleted glycogen stores, rehydrating tissues, rebuilding essential organ mass that was lost during the chronic restriction.
Like the Minnesota starvation studies showed.
Exactly. That weight was desperately needed to signal safety. Once her body felt safe and replenished, her period came back in month 4.
And pregnant.
Pregnant naturally in month 6.
Incredible. The takeaway is stark, isn't it? If your temp is chronically low, pulse is slow. Your body is in survival mode. Doesn't matter how fit you look.
Reproduction is off the table until safety is restored.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop. Okay, so we've covered the big lifestyle stressors, but let's zoom in on some specific dietary things that can really sabotage metabolism, particularly polyunsaturated fats, PUFAs.
Ah, yes, the vegetable oils. Canola, soybean, corn, sunflower, safflower, even olive oil in large amounts, right? Marketed as healthy, but problematic.
Deeply problematic from a bioenergetic perspective. They're like specific fertility destroyers hidden in plain sight.
How do they do the damage? What are the mechanisms?
There are several, but let's hit 3 main ones. First, they directly mess with your thyroid. They can actually block the enzyme in the liver that converts inactive T4 hormone to the active T3.
So less T3 means slower metabolism, lower temp.
Lower progesterone production. Just by choosing the wrong cooking oil, you're potentially creating a thyroid bottleneck.
Okay, what's number 2?
Oxidation. PUFAs are chemically unstable. They go rancid easily, both in the bottle and in your body. They create these things called lipid peroxides.
What's that there?
They damage cell membranes, especially mitochondrial membranes. Think about the cells in the ovaries, the uterus, highly active. Damaged mitochondria means less ATP, less energy, can't make energy, can't support an embryo.
And the third mechanism, hormonal balance.
Yeah, they tend to push estrogen dominance. PUFAs can stimulate estrogen production and also slow down the liver's ability to clear out excess estrogen. So they tilt that crucial progesterone to estrogen ratio in the wrong direction. Hostile territory for conception.
So the practical advice is get rid of them completely.
As much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
It's tough because they're everywhere. But switch your cooking fats entirely. Coconut oil, butter, ghee, beef tallow. Stable, saturated fats that support metabolism instead of suppressing it.
The difference between eggs cooked in butter versus canola oil is huge, metabolically speaking.
Night and day.
Okay, moving on. Minerals. You mentioned the calcium to phosphorus ratio. KP, why is that balance so important for hormones?
Well, making steroid hormones like progesterone needs a whole team of cofactors. Minerals like calcium and magnesium, plus fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, K2. The balance matters.
And modern diets are out of balance.
Massively. Traditional diets that supported fertility often had a KP ratio around 1:1 or even higher calcium. But today, with tons of muscle meat, grains, processed foods, The ratio is often flipped, like 1 part calcium into 4 parts phosphorus.
Too much phosphorus relative to calcium. What does that trigger in the body?
It signals an imbalance, specifically to the parathyroid glands. High phosphorus forces parathyroid hormone, PTH, to go up. PTH then tries to raise calcium levels, often by pulling it from your bones.
That sounds stressful for the body.
It's incredibly stressful. High PTH is a chronic stress state. It messes with thyroid signaling, inhibits hormone synthesis enzymes. It's another internal danger signal that says things are out of balance, not safe for reproduction.
So practically, people should maybe eat less lean muscle meat, fewer grains, and incorporate more calcium-rich foods.
Exactly. Dairy, if tolerated, is great. Bone broth, gelatin, collagen, they help balance the amino acids from muscle meat and provide minerals. It's about restoring that ancestral ratio.
And while we're on nutrients, vitamin A. You stress true vitamin A, retinol, not beta-carotene from plants.
Right. Beta-carotene conversion to retinol can be really inefficient for many people. We need the preformed animal version, found in liver, egg yolks, butterfat, cod liver oil.
The very foods traditional advice often told women to limit because of cholesterol or fat fears.
Precisely.
Mhm.
Actively steering women away from the most potent fertility-supporting nutrients. It's madness.
Okay, one more connection. Gut health. How does something like bloating link to infertility through this metabolic lens? You mentioned endotoxin.
Yeah, endotoxin, or LPS lipopolysaccharide,
Yeah.
is part of the cell wall of certain gut bacteria. When these bacteria die, or if the gut lining is leaky,
Which can happen under stress.
exactly, metabolic stress compromises the gut barrier. LPS leaks into the bloodstream. That's called endotoxemia.
And that's bad because
It triggers massive inflammation systemically. Your immune system sees LPS as a major threat, like an infection. This inflammation cascade is interpreted by the brain as, you guessed it, danger.
and danger signal shut down.
Thyroid function raises estrogen.
Yeah.
Inflammation directly interferes with progesterone, both making it and using it effectively at the receptor level. It's a huge energy drain and inflammatory burden.
So the solution isn't necessarily just throwing probiotics at it.
Not always. Sometimes that can make things worse if the gut is really inflamed. The bioenergetic approach is often gentler. Reduce the load on the gut. Simple, easy-to-digest foods.
Like cooked veggies instead of raw. White rice instead of brown.
Yes. Cooked, soft foods. Well-cooked meats. Reducing fibrous foods that can be hard to break down. Calming the gut reduces LPS leakage, lowers inflammation, and frees up metabolic energy that was being spent fighting that internal battle. Energy that can then go towards reproduction.
Okay, let's try to pull all these threads together. Low temperature, wonky progesterone ratios, inflammatory fats, mineral imbalances, gut issues, fasting, overexercising.
Yeah.
It all seems to point back to one core problem.
Chronic,
Okay.
metabolic stress. That's the bottleneck. Every single one of those issues either stems from or contributes to a state where the body feels fundamentally unsafe and under-resourced.
You can almost map it out like a flowchart of failure, right?
You really can. High stress from any source leads to high cortisol. High cortisol suppresses the thyroid. Suppressed thyroid leads to low temperature and low progesterone. Low progesterone and inflammation prevent pregnancy. It's a cascade.
And the core message is your body has to feel safe, warm, fed, rested, not under threat.
That's the non-negotiable biological reality.
Mm.
You can't trick it long term. IVF might try, but if the underlying unsafe signals are still blaring, the body's survival programming often overrides the intervention.
So the path from infertility back to fertility is fundamentally about restoring that feeling of safety at the cellular level.
Exactly. Which brings us to the practical steps. What can someone actually do? We've boiled it down to 10 key actions for metabolic restoration.
Okay, number one has to be temperature.
Absolutely. Track your temperature and pulse daily. Morning oral temp needs to be climbing towards 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Consistently under 97.8 degrees Fahrenheit means work is needed. Pulse should ideally be above 70, aiming for 75 plus BPM resting. This is your dashboard.
Number two, fuel.
Eat adequate calories. Ditch the restriction. For repair, most women need 2,300 calories minimum, often 2,800 to 3,000 plus VAX. And you must accept that initial healing weight might happen as your body replenishes. It's necessary.
Three, carbs are not the enemy.
Eat adequate carbohydrates, non-negotiable, at least 200 grams a day, often more. Fruit, juice, white rice, potatoes, honey, maple syrup. Needed for liver glycogen, T3 conversion, keeping cortisol down.
Four, fats, the right kind.
Prioritize saturated fats, avoid PUFAs, get rid of the vegetable oils completely. Cook with coconut oil, butter, ghee, tallow. Stable energy supports hormones.
Five, protein balance.
Balance protein intake. Aim for maybe 80, 100 grams daily, but don't overdo lean muscle meat. Include collagen, gelatin from broth or powders to balance amino acids and manage phosphorus.
6. Don't fear the salt shaker.
Salt liberally. Use unrefined sea salt. Sodium is crucial for adrenal health, cell function, managing stress hormones. You need more when you're eating enough carbs and healing.
7. Ditch the fasting.
Stop fasting. Eat consistently. 3 meals, snacks if needed. Keep the metabolic fire burning steadily. Don't signal famine.
8. Rethink exercise.
Reduce exercise intensity. No more chronic cardio or killer HIIT sessions while healing. Focus on walking, maybe gentle strength training 2-3 times a week. Move, but don't stress the system.
9. The foundation of repair.
Prioritize sleep and rest. Seriously, 8-9 hours a night. This is when the deep healing happens, non-negotiable.
And finally, number 10, light.
Manage light exposure. Sounds minor, but it's huge for circadian rhythm and hormones. Get sunlight in the morning. Dim lights drastically after sunset. Block blue light from screens in the evening. Set your body clock properly. Hashtag outro. You know, the really powerful thing here, I think, is realizing that if you're struggling with fertility, it's likely not your fault. It's not some inherent defect.
It's the predictable result of following a lot of mainstream advice.
Exactly. Strict calories, avoid salt, fear sugar, run yourself ragged, fast, use heart-healthy vegetable oils. Every single one of those pushes your body away from the metabolic state needed for conception.
The message really is, your body wants to conceive. It's designed for it. That cold, tired, stressed body can't do it because it's fighting to survive.
But the warm, nourished, rested, supported body, it knows exactly how to make a baby. It just needs you to create that safe, abundant metabolic environment using these principles.
It just needs the right signals.
Right. And as we wrap up this deep dive, thinking ahead, we've hammered home how crucial temperature is. Getting warm is key.
Yeah.
We touched on light, but what about something even more fundamental? Breathing. We mentioned CO2 briefly.
Yeah.
Think about this. If warmth is so vital, could changing how you breathe actually impact your internal CO2 levels?
And therefore cellular energy, temperature.
And maybe even your reproductive potential. Could improper breathing patterns be subtly keeping your cells inefficient, cold, and stressed without you even realizing it?
That's definitely something to chew on. So the surprising metabolic role of CO2 in breathing, that's where we're headed next time.
You got it. Stay tuned.